Premier Brad Wall with us to crack open the show. Brad, how are you?
I'm excellent. How are you guys?
Very well.
Will they have pocket squares, Drew?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well done.
Me?
So what are you doing these days? Are you on the matching? I can't see you do the games on TV for the stand-up at the start. Are you matching the pocket square with the tie, or are you going with...
No. Never have a direct... Well, you match. Yeah, of course you do. But you never, ever have the tie can't be the same as your pocket square. In other words, there's some of those places out there that will sell the pocket square that's identical to the tie. Never do that. What you do is you find a color in the tie...
Right.
That you want to accent. You can contrast off that. Right. You can accent off of that. Lately, though, I've gone for a lot of just plain colors and gone with that presidential fold with the white linen napkin.
Yep, absolutely. That looks
really nice.
White goes with everything, and I'll tell you what sports talk show anywhere on earth gives you all the insights on all the sports and gives you also the odd fashion tip for the time we got to throw a tie on. For some of us, it's every day. Other guys may only maybe rarely, but absolutely, that's pretty impressive. I don't think there's another talk show that would do that.
I agree. I don't think there's the knowledge out there, Mr. Premier.
Even on the regular news talk part of it, Gormley's kind of been mailing it in lately. I mean, it's sort of the open collar. He's wearing a golf shirt, and maybe he tucks it in, and maybe he doesn't. And he's kind of, I think he's thrown on runners with his suit a couple times, and I don't know. I don't think he cares as much as he used to.
That's a debate right there. Do you guys do we tuck shirts in now, or do we go back to or do we keep it out now? I mean, there's the big debate out there right now. What do you do?
I think doesn't it depend on what you're kind of trying to accentuate or not accentuate,
or hide?
Well, I believe it all depends on whether or not you have a belt. If you have a belt, it should be tucked in. But if you don't have a belt, it kind of looks weird if you have a shirt tucked in with no belt.
If you got a belt or a pot boiler, one of the two, you may want to depend. That might dictate your actions.
And please don't tuck in sweaters. If you're wearing a sweater, don't do that. It looks terrible. And we were talking about the pocket square on the suit. I forget who it was on Saturday night on CBC. I forget which analyst it was, but it had the red kind of checkered tie with a purple pocket square. I didn't think that went well. Or is that or am I just have no style?
No, that's not.
There's just a bunch of guys that want to talk about the Canucks and the Bruins and football camps that are really mad at us all right now. I can hear the votes I'm losing right now. They're thinking we want to get on the show and talk about sports. But actually, you guys, thanks for having me on. I think you guys, I don't want to actually talk about sports tonight, and I know we're right in the middle of the Stanley Cup Finals and Ryder Camp, and I'm following it like everyone else. But today is D-Day, or Operation Overlord, plus 67 years. And I know this show's pretty good, and it should be to our veterans, past and present. And I wanted to call in just to give a shout out to all of our veterans, especially the few that remain from that war. You guys know Saskatchewan featured pretty prominently on D-Day at Juno Beach. The Regina Rifle Regiment, as it was known then. Now it's the Royal Regina Rifles. Were first to their objectives, deepest into France on first day. My old friend Sarge, his grandpa, was at D-Day. He was, I think he was a major then, and so he was right up front. And now he finished his time, I think, as a lieutenant colonel, and basically was commanding officer of the Royal Regina Rifles, but was there injured twice in duty, and then finally back home. And through him, we honor all of those people. We wouldn't be able to talk about sports or pocket squares or anything else, frankly, if guys like that aren't up front and taking the watch. So I think it's a good night on D-Day, on the 67th anniversary of Operation Overlord, to pay tribute to our veterans and all of our soldiers, past and present.
Premier Wall, on that note, I understand you had a special guest at your Premier's dinner who may have been name-dropping the other night in Sarge.
We had Sarge there. Sarge was kind enough. I asked him if he'd introduce me. We don't particularly care for each other, and he's generally not. When it comes to football, he's not the brightest bulb on the string, but he's a hero. What he did in Afghanistan, we had a chance to not just to honor him, but a whole bunch of Saskatchewan soldiers, along with Canadians, received a regimental commendation from the Commander-in-Chief, who's the Governor-General, for what they were doing, especially in 2006 in Afghanistan. And I don't think enough of us know exactly what was going on there and the heavy lifting Canadians were doing again. In the case of Kandahar almost falling, some of the other allied countries were having trouble. They sent in Canadians, a smaller group of them, and saved Kandahar. Who knows how it would have gone without them. So we honored a bunch of them there that night, and many do, and we should. And Sarge was kind enough to introduce me, and he bit his tongue and said a few nice things, and bit his lip and said a few nice things, and but he was there, sure. No, Sarge is obviously a friend, though he's, again, he's got some troubles on certain things like sports, but he was there, you bet.
Did you know that on D-Day in June 6th in 1944, 15,000 Canadians, there were more British and Canadian troops than there were United States troops?
Yeah, isn't that remarkable? I don't think I knew. You know what, Drew? I don't think I knew that. I think I was aware there was a huge number. I did not know that. That is remarkable.
You know, 15,000 Canadians from the 3rd Canadian Infantry, and they landed on, well, what we call Juno now, at Juno Beach.
Right.
The Americans took the heaviest artillery at Omaha and Utah, and then the British were on Sword and, Gold.
Well, you're right. Oh,
yep.
Well
and
done, Drew.
So they hit different beaches. I just I'm not like a big history buff. I read history for dummies kind of thing, but I mean when you look at the Canadian support on so many fronts in the wars, and especially at D-Day in World War II, their sacrifice, and they also had the air support, they had the paratroopers, they were big on the Normandy invasion. Huge contribution from the Canadians.
Yeah, it was sort of punch above our weight in terms of population, for sure. Vimy Ridge, the World War I was another great example. They would bog down at places and send in, seems the Canadians would succeed. I do have this, I'll just quickly share it with you. I'm mindful of your time here, and that is a sports talk show, but Sarge's his grandfather's name was Frank Dixon, and he still had this letter. The family still had it. There was a letter that they got from the Supreme Allied Commander, who of course was General Eisenhower, and went on to be the president. And here's what it said, in part anyway. It said, "Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking." He still had the letter, and the family, Sarge's family had it, and well, it puts things in perspective, doesn't it? And our women and men are doing it still today. So I think it's a good occasion just to thank them before we start talking about the Canucks and the Bruins and the Ryder Receiving Corps.
That's not bad. 67th anniversary today.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
And it's also. As Boston wants everybody to know, the 25th anniversary of Cam Neely's trade from Vancouver to Boston, and it's his birthday as well today, and they're hoping, Premier, that may be a sign that the momentum will shift from Vancouver to Boston once again 25 years later.
I got a call from former Premier Gordon Campbell today, who, as you guys know, is a big sports fan, big BC Lions fan, and obviously absolutely over the top about the Canucks, where he promised to send me a Canucks jersey if I would only publicly declare my allegiance for the Canucks. So I think I could say we're cheering for Tanner from Craven. I don't know if I can go beyond that yet and be true to myself, but Gordon Campbell is busily phoning people across the country building support for the Vancouver Canucks.
And actually,
do they need it? Do they need the support?
I don't think they do. But he just doesn't quit. He doesn't quit.
Hey, the last interesting. We always get these notes from our Comcast stats guy. I shared a few last game after Rafi Torres scored. The last 6 years in the Stanley Cup Finals, the home team has won the first 2 games and gone on, except with the exception of one, gone on to win the Stanley Cup. Of course, Detroit beat Pittsburgh twice in Detroit, and the second year, of course, Pittsburgh came back and won that the Stanley Cup. But other than that, the last 6 years, starting with Carolina and Edmonton, the home team has won the first 2 games of the series. How's that?
Well, the odds are against the Bruins. It's interesting about the Cam Neely trade. I'd forgotten about that. Canucks figure prominently in the history of the team that I kind of grew up liking, the Buffalo Sabres. You know what that might be, you guys? What trivia links the Buffalo Sabres and the Vancouver Canucks?
Well, the Buffalo Sabres Vancouver Canucks came into the league together in 1970. Right. The Buffalo Sabres won the bingo ball to draft Gilbert Perreault, part of the French Connection line, and also they registered their colors first.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that part. So you got one on me.
The Vancouver Canucks wanted to be gold and blue, but the Buffalo Sabres registered gold and blue to the league first, so they had to redesign their jerseys to the old jersey, but now the current jersey of blue and green in honor of the forest.
And who did the Canucks get for their player?
It was Mr. Talon.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good, Jim.
That is pretty good. That's pretty good.
I would have rather had Perreault, of course.
Wasn't that interesting during the CBC broadcast the other night? Which Bruin? Which Bruins listed? They did the quick vignette thing. Listed some of his favorite players, and one of them was Perreault. I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen very many players cite that, but that was kind of nice to see.
He was a fabulous player. The French Connection line was an unbelievably great line.
It was great to watch growing up. And how did Richard Martin, the late Richard Martin, qualify for? Wasn't he like from Aurora? He wasn't Richard Martin, was he? Wasn't he Rick Martin? I guess
Rick Martin,
it was French Connection, so they changed it into kind of a French-sounding name.
Yeah, exactly.
You're now Richard Martin. I apologize, but that's just the way it has to go. We have about a minute left.
Sure.
So the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Right.
You mentioned the receiving corps, so are you worried?
A little. I mean, Andy Fantuz, so you don't easily replace that, and Rob Begg blows up his knee again. So sure, I think I'm just like every other Rider fan. You're worried a little bit. It sounds like they got some good ones in camp. They got some over-the-top speed in this Dunn. It sounds like the rookie, I've been, good tweeting from camp, by the way, because I've been following that, and that's kind of interesting. And highlights the fact that I probably follow Twitter too much if I'm checking on the Rider camp and my friend Jamie. But anyway, I'm hopeful that we got a pretty good front office. They're going to find some receivers, but how do you lose Fantuz and Begg and not be worried a little bit?
I would just like to caution you, Mr. Premier, on some politicians down here in the South of having some trouble on Twitter. So just be careful.
Did you hear the latest? There apparently that in a civil ceremony, the Congressman Wiener there was married by whom do you know?
No,
by Bill Clinton.
No, he wasn't.
He married a staffer to Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently the ceremony was done by Bill Clinton.
Whoops.
You know what? That's too easy. People should have to make up their own jokes.
Exactly. That's exactly. Shouldn't be given to you.
And I know the Premier of the province will never, ever, 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 ever get in a predicament like Representative Wiener down. That story writes it. Actually, you don't even have to write this story. It's
really hard to believe. It should be a Saturday Night Live skit. It really
it has been, and it will be continuing.
Well, sadly for Saturday Night Live, the controversy hit after they were done taping their season, but Jon Stewart is all over it on The Daily Show, and he's actually a good friend with Representative Wiener down.
Yeah, he is. I watched a bit of that the other night, and it sounds like he was going pretty hard, but he seems a bit conflicted.
And finally, Premier, I must say, my niece goes to the preschool in Craven. I believe you donated Tanner Glass's jersey for an auction or something?
We sure did. Well, Premier Clark, the new Premier BC, there's the New West Partnership. You guys know those are the three western half provinces we've kind of got together on a sort of a free trade zone. So Premier Stelmach and I went to visit the new Premier of British Columbia when Premier Clark was sworn in. And she had jerseys for us. She had... Oh, man, this is terrible. I'm forgetting. She had an Albertan player for jersey and player for Premier Stelmach. Drew, you guys might be able to help me out. I'm forgetting that.
Is it Mason Raymond?
That's it. Oh, well, you guys are on a roll tonight.
Yeah, it's Jamie. It's anything about the Canucks, it's Jamie.
Yeah, okay, you're right, actually. You say you've been a Canucks fan for a long time, and I'm starting to believe it. And then I had Tanner's, and we did a bit of a photo op, and then, if Tanner would sign this, I said to Premier Clark, if he'd sign it, I'm sure the local community could use it as a fundraiser. And sure enough, he did, of course, right away. And so I'm not sure what they did with it, but good on them that they have already used it to raise a little money.
And thank you for the donation. And I know Craven is on the edge of their seat, hoping Tanner Glass maybe brings the cup home to the Valley this summer at some point.
I'm sure he will if they win.
Well, thank you so much, Premier Wall, and I imagine we'll be talking with you throughout the CFL season.
Thanks, guys, for the chance to give a shout-out to the troops and our veterans. I sure appreciate that. Have a good one.